What is up, all forms of social media? James, Joseph, Edward, Jessberger Jr., but please call me Jimmy for short. We are doing another episode of the Lions Roar podcast with the topic actually being really relevant, I can never say that word, being very particular about this episode because I am streaming or recording this episode from a new camera. Yay! I have bought and have loved already the Lumix G7 camera. It has been amazing. I have loved it. I have been using it for every D&D stream, every stream I've been doing, and hopefully every video that comes out soon you guys will enjoy will be with this camera. The positioning of the camera is not set yet. It is just a kind of placeholder for me trying to figure out where I want to put the camera. But this is a big test. I know the camera can last hours streaming as a webcam, and it's not hooked up as a webcam right now. It's just hooked up as its own thing. It has a SD card in it right now that's recording up to a certain amount of time. I think this camera can record as long as you want because it is a specific video camera. I just don't know how much it can record on this SD card. So we're going to find out today how long this podcast episode is. So if it doesn't come out, it's less than I don't know, a half an hour. If it's longer than a half an hour, the video will still come out and I'll just be upset. And if it lasts more than an hour, then awesome. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping for an hour on this SD card, but we'll see. Also, hopefully this video is in 4K. That's the point of this camera. I bought it so that it was a 4K camera that I could record outside of webcamming and stuff like that, that it was in 4K. Yay! But the topic of this video and why you're probably like, I already know why it pertains to this, Jimmy, because you already put it in the title and you already kind of explained it with the camera thing. Yes, I did. And I have no prompt. I have nothing. I'm just going to speak from the heart with this episode because it has been something that has been the love and hate relationship of my entire life. We are going to talk about technology today. Mostly on technology as like a roadie, as a tech nerd, as a gamer, as a studio artist, if you want to say, as a composer, etc. If you're looking more for the side of like technology through the ages types of stuff, maybe I'll get into that, but it's going to be mostly on my side of like how I've dealt with it in my life and how technology kind of has affected me. We'll see if I relate it back to social media. It's probably going to, but we'll see as we go along. So the earliest memory that I didn't even think about before recording this, that I just thought of now, that technically was my first real tech-savvy thing that got me into recording myself and to recording other people, besides acting. Acting was the first thing that was like, hey, I want to get into performance art, etc., stuff like that. I started that in kindergarten, but around the age of, I would say, like 5th grade, my parents actually had a camcorder. Now, for those of you who are millennials or older, I don't think many Gen Z would even know what this is. Well, I shouldn't say many Gen Z. I should say the lower half of Gen Z into the new generations. We had these camcorders that recorded on a thing called a VHS tape. And the tape was a kind of like giant box that recorded your film in it, and you could put it into your TV. And you could play it, you could re-record over it, you could record TV episodes if you missed things. I used to do that a lot with the VHSs. But this camcorder was special to me. It meant in a time where I was really heavy and chubby and overweight as a kid, I didn't need to necessarily be on the stage to like express myself through art. And like that was awesome that my friends really wanted to be in front of the camera and I got to be behind it. And then eventually I started getting more into the I need to find old videos and see if I can put them into this one. But that was like my first like introduction, and why I've like really loved like getting to record on cameras. And then it got into like recording myself. And even though in the beginning I didn't like recording myself, I liked putting myself out there and like expressing my love and expression for like the arts and stuff like that. So that's why I kind of like built on top of that. So I was an actor. I started getting more into like the techie side. And since getting that camcorder, I realized from the camera that you could plug in the camera into the TV and you could watch yourself even without the VHS tape being in the VHS player. You could do a whole bunch of stuff. And I was always interested in, and no one's going to know what I'm talking about probably. Hopefully some of you guys do. There were there were Legos, and then there were Lincoln Logs and like all these Lincoln Logs that you could like put together and like build things. And I was always into Legos growing up as a kid. I was always into Legos. So when Zoids finally came out and what are they called? Gundam robots and everything, I was hooked on them. Like, I didn't even watch the Gundam show. I watched Zoids, and I need to rewatch those episodes to see if they still hold up. But I was always building things. I was always trying to get into that stuff. And I know a ton of my friends, even from back then that I don't talk to anymore, would be like, well, Jimmy wasn't really, he didn't really express it. I didn't really express it because it was kind of like my thing. It was my thing. It was like my parents' thing for me. I got really into all that stuff. And then finally there was like a transition somewhere where like I was getting CDs and I was getting back when CDs were a thing, and I was getting like MP3 players, and I was really into having phones. Like, not just phones to like text and to call, but when you finally got a phone that you could, I don't know, put music on it, that was kind of like my first expression into it. Now, I want to kind of take that back. Maybe it was like my first introduction into like technology as a whole, because there's actually something else before that got me really more into it. I would say what catalyst more was phones and getting more into phone technology and knowing what I could do and how good I got at things. So like I started translating that into other things that I started doing. But the main thing that really got me into it was I started learning drums when I was in 7th grade, because at the time, my bandmates and friends, or my friends wanted to form a band. One already knew how to play guitar. One already knew how to play the keys. And then we started adding more people, but I was learning drums at the time. And I learned drums because of the band. And I went to a place called George's Music. Now, George's Music is still around. The one that I used to go to is not around anymore, unfortunately. I would teach there if it was still there. But I started getting drum equipment. I started buying my own drums, or my parents started buying them for me. I started getting my own like gear. And I started recording myself from that camcorder on like a VHS tape. And I wanted to get more into like the recording myself and then like posting it, because if you don't know, if you're too young to even know this, or even if you forget, YouTube became a thing at 2006. So like a year into me already watching YouTube, I was already interested in recording drums. I was already interested in recording myself and putting it online. You know, like huge influencers like Smosh and Shane at the time were really getting me more and more into YouTube. And then I have a whole history of like getting into YouTube and like what I loved from YouTube and stuff like that. But that's a different video completely. But I started noticing that people were getting like higher tech cameras. So I asked my parents when they finally, I can't even remember my first camera, to be completely honest, but I know I had my own camera at one point, but they had an old like, oh god, I can't even remember the company. It's like all those first generation like silver cameras that you get. It doesn't even record more than 10 minutes. It's one of those kind of cameras. It was mostly for pictures, but you could like record video on it. And I started using our desktop computer. Now that's another thing too. A ton of people think because I'm so tech savvy and I've always been around technology, I was actually one of the last kids in my grade to get a computer in their home. Like everybody else had like computers, they had video games. I had like things here and there. I had like the N64, and then I had, I think, the PS2 I had the GameCube, then the PS2, etc. Like I had my things, but while other people were getting like computers and USB connectors and stuff like that, I was still getting used to like playing old video games. And then computers started to get more and more advanced, but I started learning by myself through like YouTube and through other things that like you could hook up these technological things and you could put your video onto the computer. And which is a good thing and a bad thing, being so young. I would not recommend doing it until a certain age, now that everybody freaking does it on their mothers do it, literally, ironically, and literally. Anybody with a camera, seriously. I mean, not trying to say that in a bad way, but like anybody can make videos now. That's the funny part. But I started like recording myself, and it started with actually drum covers. Like I would blast music and I would play drums in the background. Now back then, you guys see all these crazy videos of drummers like having drum mics or using electronic drums, etc., stuff like that. I always wanted to do that until I finally got to the point that I could do it. I paid for it myself, and with my studio and everything. But it wasn't always like that. Back then, you would just record your drums over a loudspeaker, and you would hope that they could hear the song and the drums. There's actually a guy, I don't even think he does YouTube anymore. There's a YouTuber I used to watch. I think his name was Chris, and he would play drums over a speaker, and I was like, man, I really want to be like him. And that's where a lot of my drumming style actually came from in the beginning. So I started uploading these videos to the computer, and I started getting into Windows Movie Maker, and I used Windows Movie Maker forever, for like the longest freaking time, until I finally knew how to like actually video edit it, and like knew how to do these things, and like learned and stuff like that. When I had the money to myself and everything, not begging my parents to get me everything. And it just got to a point where I was really enjoying, like, not getting into the whole like video process, but like I loved making videos. I loved getting to like record myself and even just talk to the camera, because I didn't have to worry about who was on the other side. I just thought of it, and I need to get back to that point again. It's just me here, it's just me. And when I upload it, then people get to see it, and I don't get to see the reactions when they do it. It's just my thing. Whatever I want to say, I just put out there, because who the fuck cares? You get to say whatever you want, right? Then there's actions to your actions, etc. But I'm not that type of person. I'm not a bad person. But then I started noticing that people were getting like more tech savvy. Now, drum mics were always a thing. Like, they've been around ever since like even I think around the 70s. But they weren't used for recording originally. They were used to like amplify your drums, because guitars and instruments back then were just so loud that the drums sometimes in big stadiums weren't heard, so they would have to be projected. And I finally got to a point where I didn't buy drum mics, but I bought my first condenser mic, and I was so proud of that damn thing. And it got abused, it got thrown, it got spit on, not by me, by other people, because I had a band at the time. Remember, I had a band back then, and my bandmates would just fuck with the mic so bad. And I would bring that mic over to like record for things, and one of my friends was actually recording our audio for certain things. We like put like little band tracks together. I don't even think he still has any of that shit anymore, but I would love to see it if it was still around. We would like put the mic up to the amps, and we would like record ourselves. And I was using electric drums at the time, and I was recording through the speakers. Not like as tech savvy as it is now. Now I have like eons above that. And on top of that, we would not only use the mic. I bought this thing, and I still have it to this day. I could record with it now if I really wanted to. I hooked it up not the other day, but like a year ago, and it still works, and I could still plug in things. It's still amazing. It's one of those like things that never goes bad. I bought a thing called Line 6, and it's one of the older models. It's one of the really old models. And I plugged it in, and I could hook up a guitar and record from it, like straight audio. I could plug in the mic at the same time and record the audio, and I thought I was so cool. And then it just like stopped working. It like stopped working for some reason, and I didn't really get full recordings. And back then, I can look back now, I did not have a good grasp of understanding of tech at all. Now I have a way better understanding. I'm not as good as some people, but I know I'm up there now. Like, I know my tech savviness is pretty much up there. I actually just ironically helped a friend hook her controller up to her computer, so that was a whole process. But then I don't know where it really stems from there, because then there's like a million things that I've done that kind of just like related, and I'll kind of like dip in back into the past and into the future and how I kind of feel now. So it'll kind of be all over the place. Let's see where it goes. But then somewhere along the line, I started really getting into like video editing, and I bought my first video editing software, which was iSkysoft, something like that. And I was like, now at the time, I thought professionally editing my videos. Funny enough, isn't it? Then my father got a DSLR from work for school, and it's never been given back for some strange reason. I don't know if they ever needed it. I guess they just never asked for it. I got my first DSLR because he wasn't using it. I could use it. I was taking pictures of things, and I fell in love with not only video editing and taking video, which is my main thing. Like I love video editing and videos and stuff like that. It turned into me taking pictures for things. So whenever we had family events, whenever we went to places, I don't do it as often as I used to. I need to get really back into taking pictures because I have DSLRs, and I took one for an event. I should do it more. But I fell in love with taking pictures, and I was like, man, I could really, get into the whole social media thing. And now that I look back, I kind of wish I went to school for like photography or like video editing. But I'm very proud of what I went to school for. I'm very proud of the person that I become, and even I'm getting better, and I know it's just gonna get better from here. But I wish I would have like took more classes in film or something. I just did more of like the acting side. For those who don't know, I went to my college for BFA in acting and minor in music. So I wish I would have got a little more of that. And everything, it's crazy. Some people look at me and they're like, you know everything you know now just from trial and error and like doing it from the beginning and just working on it and practicing it and going out and finding out yourself. Hell yeah, fuck yeah, I did. Like, this is all me. I can proudly say that I did this myself, kind of thing. So it finally got to the point where I wanted to record my guitar. I wanted to make full band covers. I was already a singer, so I really wanted to get into the whole like singing thing and recording my vocals. So there was a few times I recorded my vocals in yelling over speakers and singing over speakers, or I was playing drums over speakers, and I wanted to record drums better. So I went, well, I need like a better camera, I need better tech, I need all this stuff. So what kind of like was built from the ground up, and one day I'll show you guys like my whole studio. No one on YouTube has actually seen my entire studio, even from like if you were to find an old video that's already been deleted, but like if you were to find an old video of like my room or like my studio, you would still not know what it looks like because I never have shown the whole thing. Like everything I have here, everything I've done, no one has ever seen it from like a video standpoint. Now I've had people over and they've seen or used my studio, but they have never seen the full capacity. I've never shown anybody the full capacity. So today I'm going to kind of like talk about it, not necessarily show it though. So in like a general kind of like skeleton timeline, I would say I bought a new camera. I was editing on a laptop at the time. I had this like, I think it was a white Dell or something, or like it was a black Dell, I think, computer. And it was getting the job done. And so I was, for a long time, I was just using a DSLR because these phones were not what they are now. They really weren't. Now you can take a 4K video on your phone and use it, But I was using a laptop. I was using I was using a Dell laptop because I remember what it exactly looked like. I had to throw it out, unfortunately. I was using a Line 6 mic input for my drums. I was using Windows Movie Maker for the audio and the video, and I was using a Pearl export. Well, originally I was using a Groove Percussion. That was my first ever drum set. Then I bought a Pearl export, whatever it's called, Midnight Blue series. Joey Jordison kit, essentially. And then I was like, and I was using the DSLR that my dad gave me, and I think the first tech I really bought, no, that's a lie, because after I got the DSLR from my parents, I not only bought the Line 6, because I'm looking at my tech, some of the tech I had from the very beginning I still have here. I bought my first mixer, because for bands and for stuff like that, we needed to plug in not only like mics for singing, we needed mics for guitar. I mean, we needed inputs for guitar, for bass, for our output, like our amps. And I almost completely forgot my cousin, who still hasn't taken it back yet for some reason. I guess he just expects it to be mine now because of all the stuff that I use it for. Essentially, whenever I play music loud now without the headphones in, actually, I just realized I can take these out too. Wow, I can really hear myself now too. My cousin was a DJ, and he had this DJ equipment, and he left for Hawaii, and he wasn't going to bring it with him, and he didn't really essentially need it anymore. So he asked my parents if we would hold on to it. And that was, I forgot, that was actually my first real big tech thing for sound, at least. Like, that was the first big thing where it's got a mixer, it's got a CD player, and it's got a basically, what's the word for it? It's got a, I have one down here too that's a newer model. It's like it gives the amps, I completely cannot remember the name right now. It'll come back to me later, but I have like a preamp or like a, what's the name for it? That's going to really bother me. But it's like it gives power to the amps. A power adapter, I can't remember the exact name, but it came all together, and there were these tons of cords. So when me and my friends were younger and we were in bands together, that's how the mixer thing reminded me of that. We would plug the mixer into the amp, or we would use that mixer too, because we could plug a mic into that, and then we could plug the mixer into the actual amp. We would play shows, and we would DJ parties through, not like big parties, but, you know, just like little kid, like, I'm going to put on Britney Spears, or Halloween parties and stuff like that. We'd use those giant, and some people think when they're like, oh, you have DJ equipment when you were a kid, like, what did it look like, blah, blah, blah. Like, they're speakers that are from my head down to, like, past my, like, to my knees. Like, they're that big that we used to play around with. They're actually in my room hanging. Well, not hanging. They're on stands now. And I bought my own giant speakers that I was hopefully going to DJ soon with. I need to get more into DJ. That's like my whole thing, is I have a whole stand and studio equipment now. I just need a laptop that I can move, that's a good laptop at the same time, while also taking all that, whatever. That's another story. And my giant mixer now and everything that I don't use because I don't plug in my drums anymore. There's a whole story behind that and stuff like that I'll get into as I slowly start to get more into my tech. So yeah, I had the DJ equipment, and I went from the DJ equipment to a Line 6 to a condenser microphone to a DSLR and a laptop, and I was recording through Windows Movie Maker. And then finally, I was working at a 9-to-5 office job that paid kind of okay. Well, actually, even before that, when I was acting, before I got into the office job, because I was stupid, and I was like, I'm gonna go, which it kind of made me into the person I am today. So it's not that regrettable or anything. I made a lot of good money from it. I mean, a lot of good money. I just worked a lot, so I got a lot of money from it. Don't work more than you have to. Trust me. From all my acting jobs and from making money and not having to worry about a certain payment yet, I bought myself a desktop computer. I bought myself a mixer, like an actually good mixer. I bought myself cables. I bought myself like good processing mics back at the time. I actually have it right here. I have this mic that I don't even use anymore. It's another Shure microphone, just like this Shure SM7. I think this is like the SM3 or 5 or something. This is still good, and I would use it for like other people if they were on my podcast and stuff, whatever. But it just wasn't as good as a sound quality as I wanted, and I love these SM7Bs so much. Like, I want more of these just for myself, but I'd use them for other things too. So I bought the microphones, and for a while I was just using the mics like for me talking, for me singing, and then I started using them for like my drums. Like, I'd have like overhead drum mics, and like I wanted to make sure that my drums sounded like okay, because I saw a bunch of people using mics on their drums, and I could never do it. Like, I never had like a full set of drum mics. So the more and more I wanted to edit my YouTube channel, and the more and more I wanted to do on the channel, it got to a point where I was like, I need more tech. Well, not even need. I wanted more tech. I wanted to be the best that I could be. So I think the next thing. So I didn't go into like all the techie things I got. I mean, the non-techie things that I got in between. Like, I got my first like actually like good kit that I still have today that I use if I ever need an acoustic set. I have my Pearl Export kit. Then I bought myself, then that's the next thing before the mics actually. I bought myself a new DSLR at the time, camera. And all this time, if I would give any form of advice as like a really specific techie thing, don't be an idiot and buy a DSLR camera. Buy a DSLR video camera. There's a difference because cameras can only record up to 10 to 20 minutes. These cameras can record up to however long you want because they're video specific cameras. That's the whole time I was so confused. Like, why are my DSLRs never working as webcams? Why are they never blah, blah, blah? It's because you need a certain camera to do it. That's why we live in an age where these things are perfect to just use because you can do whatever you want with them. Then let me think. I went from a DSLR. Then I think I bought my big mixer, like so that I could like plug in drums. I could because I was still kind of like playing drums with people, and then I wanted to get mics for my drum set. But before I got the mics for the drum set, I bought my new desktop computer, and I like went all out. There was like a month or two where there was a package coming every single day for me for a while. Like I bought my desktop computer, I'm trying to look at all my stuff. I bought the monitors that are standing in front of me. I bought my mixer. I bought my mics, I bought my cables, and I bought a drum pack of like microphones. And I use Ply, or I used to use Ply. I mean, I still use them now. I still use them if I had to mic up a drum set. And they're really good mics. Like I'm really impressed and happy. They're not like I don't think they're even a major brand drum company for mics, but I love them. Like I literally love them. And then I started getting to the whole habit of like, well, maybe I should buy myself an electric kit, and that's like the newest thing that's an addition to me. And I'm jumping around a lot, but like now I record all my drums through MIDI, and that's what I want to do actually either today or tomorrow. I want to record some drum covers so I can finally get back into the swing of that too, because that's mostly what this channel has been noticed by, drumming people. Finally, after all these years, I started my YouTube as a drumming channel. I veered off and I did all this other stuff. Now people are like, I like the drums, can you do more with the drums? I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. But in between those years, I bought myself guitars, basses. I actually had a friend give me a MIDI keyboard from their grandfather that unfortunately passed. Thank you so much, Aaron, at the time. That I've been using for all my MIDI stuff. Like whenever I track something that's not on the drums and it's keyboard or whatever, I use that MIDI keyboard. It's right in front of me, actually. The other thing that I didn't go because it wasn't like a techie thing that I was like talking about at the time. The other things that I bought before I got into the drum, like right before the drum mics, I started getting more into gaming again because there was like a huge break between high school into like my junior year of college. But I was still YouTubing and doing video games, but I didn't feel like I was like, oh my God, yes, like every day I'm playing video games. Now, like I feel like I play video games a lot more than I used to. I bought my first capture card. I bought a Ruxio capture card HD. That I had no idea if it was going to work. Everybody was using all these different capture cards. No one really knew what they were doing. Like gaming just started on YouTube really at the time. I think this was like 2011, maybe even before then or a little after then. And then I bought, my PS4, I bought my Switch, I bought my Xbox, and I have my external hard drives for all of them. Like that's how like crazy I got into it. And I just don't have the space, but I do have my virtual reality headset. Like I would love to have this space that's over here and to record myself doing virtual reality and stuff like that. But the drums are in the way. I also have my bed in my studio. So it's a whole process. And then over the years, I've gotten like extra things that I've just needed as a musician or as a teacher or a conductor. I have extra amps in here. Before the electric drum set, I bought the giant speakers that I want to eventually DJ with and my power boxes and all that. I now specifically have 2 giant blue containers. One is for internet cables and one is for like sound cables. So like anything that goes to an HDMI, anything that goes to like a computer setting or a USB or a computer is in the tech one, and then I have a sound one that's like all the guitar port things, all the mic. I'm really breaking a lot. All the guitar plugins, all the mic plugins, all the what are they called? Freaking I can't even power chords. all power cords. Yeah, I mean they're power cords too, but the nice. Okay, so it records for a half an hour and then it stops. Okay, so you can keep going though. It's not that the SD card's done. Okay, cool. So it's just gonna be 10 seconds of me in blackness. I'm almost done anyway. Well, almost, quote unquote. Hope you guys know that I don't edit these videos. You'll find out soon. Yeah, so but in between, like, then I got my green screens, right? So anything before my most recent purchases were the Lumex, was the Alesis drum set. I forgot to mention I bought my first 4K camera, which is the Canon XC15, something like that. I love that fucking camera. I will bring that to shoots. I will do anything. I will take pictures, blah blah blah. That's literally my favorite camera. The Lumex is a very close second. Like, one's more of a travel camera and the other one's more of a, like, this is my studio camera that I use for everything. Because I can plug mics into that. I can plug anything I want into that. I have a ring light. I have all this extra stuff. And then the green screens and everything like that were before the Alesis and the newest camera. So that's where I kind of wanted to put everything into a timeline. So now that I've gotten into, and I have like my iPad for like D&D stuff and for church stuff now. Like, I try and make myself as versatile as I can with the tech. And then I have my Apple Watches. And I'm not sure, it sounds like I'm trying to brag, but I just want to show people that, like, you can get to a point of, like, getting what you want and being happy, even if you don't have the greatest, job, or, like, if you're not at the best place that you want to be at. Like, you can make it happen. I'm just trying to put that out there. Then for software, I use Adobe Premiere Pro for my video editing and for my recording of my audio when it's, like, a podcast or, like, music or making drum covers or full band covers. I use Ableton Live 9. I'm just giving all the secrets away, aren't I? And for now recording video games, I use the Elgato 4K 60, whatever it's called. I forget. I don't even remember the name. And then I have my Stream Deck. And for recording my specific audio, I have the Focusrite and I have the SM7B microphone. And I have a printer. Like, I'm just now I'm just looking around and going, okay, I have this, and then I have this. I used to use a Blue Yeti. Like, there's so many things in between that I didn't even get into. Like, I used to use a Blue Yeti before I used the SM3 or the S5, I forget, the Shure somethings. The SM7Bs are like the newest addition to me. And even before I'm not even joking, before the Blue Yeti, I swear to God, before the Blue Yetis, I used to use a Rock Band mic. I would use that to record drums, and I would use that to record my voice. I'm not even joking. I use that all the freaking time. And it's funny. And then I got a Logitech mic right after that. And then I got the Blue Yeti, and then I got the newer mic, and then I got the SM7B, which is my newest baby that I freaking love. Yeah. So the main point of this video was to get more into it. I'm kind of glad I didn't go that way originally. Was to kind of like say fuck you to all my technology, because I've been having the weirdest issues. And then the other thing, if people want a good camera to start with for a webcam that I still recommend, I even still use it now sometimes, even though I still have the Lumex for like a webcam now. I use it for everything for my webcam. I highly recommend I'm staring at it right now, the Logitech HD 1080p. I use that. Like, I had a webcam before that. I don't recommend it now. It's the Logitech C920. It was great when it was first starting. Like, I used to use that for recording like little quick videos for live streams. Then I got the 1080p one, and I was like, whoa, there's a freaking difference. And now that I use a DSLR, the Lumix G7 for all my recordings, and the Canon, I'm like, buddy, 1080p, you're still good. You're still good for a 1080p like recording, but the Lumix is like, whoa, like you can see a difference on the webcam, especially. But if I ever ran to, like, I would not disregard it as like, oh my god, if my Lumix G7 doesn't work and I have to use the other webcam, I'm not gonna be like, oh my god, it doesn't work. Like, that camera still works beautifully. Like, I love that camera. I still have it up. If it didn't work well and I didn't enjoy it, I would have just moved it. I would have put it where the other webcam is. The other webcam was just for lessons. Now I could use this one for lessons, and if I ever need to do drum lessons on the side. for my Zoom and stuff like that. I didn't mean like on the side. I still teach, but this video was meant to go more into how much I've gotten sick and kind of annoyed of technology, even though I just did this whole rant of like, I love technology. And that's kind of the thing. It's funny, as a kid, when I was this overweight kid watching TV, if there was ever, it didn't matter what TV show it was. I don't know what it was about me and about, TV shows that were like this, but if there was ever like a techie episode of like a Nickelodeon show, or a techie episode of like a Cartoon Network show, or there's a techie episode of a sitcom, I always had to sit down and watch it. Or if I couldn't watch it at the time, I had to know what episode it was so that I could watch it later and like see what they did with the tech and like learn about it. And then it kind of makes me think like, what would have happened if I would have got more onto like the engineering techie side of all this stuff? I probably would have been a way different Jimmy than I am now. I probably wouldn't have all these tattoos and long hair. Not that acting and stuff made me that way, but I mean, I've always loved tattoos, and I've always wanted sleeves since I was 8 years old. So maybe I would have been the same person. Who knows? But the biggest gripe I've had for some reason, and it's mostly streaming. It's actually mostly streaming that's giving me most of the issues. And recording audio. And I know I'm going to jinx myself. I want to knock on wood before I say that out loud while I'm recording this podcast. But for some strange reason, for years, whether it was my Line 6 or it was plugging in my mixer. Oh, I even forgot about my Tascam. For a while, for a long time, and it's a beauty, and I still would use it now, but the Focusrite's so simple and easy to just plug in, and it's a USB straight plug-in. I mean, the Tascam is too. I have a Tascam audio interface that would sometimes give me issues, and I'm just like, well, I guess I'm just not going to use it for now, kind of thing. And the Focusrite was so good, I would buy like the whole mixer of that. But I was plugging in my Behringer mixer into the Tascam audio interface for my drums, for my mics, and I would have one for mics and I have one for the drums and everything. And that gave me issues all the time. For some reason, whatever, you guys don't even know this, some people still use it today. I used Audacity to record a lot of my, that's what I was trying to remember, what did I use for recording drums in my audio in the beginning besides Windows Movie Maker? I would take, some of you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. I would go on Audacity, I would record it, and then I would export it to a lame file, and it would turn into that was the only way you could make it into an MP3 back in the day. Now, probably Audacity has a capability of turning it into an MP3 without worrying about it. But it's so funny how much has like changed since then. It's so freaking funny. But yeah, back in the day, I would have so many issues recording audio. I couldn't get things to work for some reason. And I guess it's just because I have a better understanding now. Now I can take a technologically savvy thing or a tech thing or, just technology in general. And I can just plug it in and I can usually figure it out now, which is better, way better than what I used to be. Before, there was a point where I didn't understand why my drum mics sounded like crap for like a few months. And it was because I forgot to turn the gain down on something when I was turning down the audio on something else. So the gain was too loud, but the drums weren't sounding good. So now I can go back, and if I ever record acoustic drums, I know what to do now, especially with my equipment. It's so funny how you just look back and you're like, wow, I didn't notice that back then. But some things haven't been my fault. Like the Line 6 thing wasn't my fault. The Ruxio capture card eventually started giving out on me. I was like, I can't not turn it on without it fucking up my video games or something like that. So I always say, if you're going to invest in something, invest in the best things that you can, because sometimes it's just fuck, man. You think you're going to be good and everything's going to be fine if you get the standard okay thing. Now I know that if I invest in myself and I know it's worthy of the cause I'm going to do, I get the bigger thing or I get the better thing because I know eventually I'm going to figure it out and it's going to be better in the long run for me. Here's the other funny thing. I bought a Headrush pedal board for guitar. I'm not that great of a guitar player. I got it just because I knew that it was going to last me a long time. It's still one of the best guitar port pedal kits out there for people. And I knew that eventually when I got better at my skills and I was recording guitar better and stuff like that at the time, now that I had the Focusrite, or if I want to use the Tascam again, I can. I can record. I could, the head brush board actually just plugs into the computer too. It's an USB, but I have all these options now that like I can record the way that I want to record. Essentially, Speaking of that, I need to get more into my full band covers and everything. It's just that I spend most of my time doing what God knows at half the time because fucking bullshit. The other thing is too, I was just on Mime the other day. Like that's what my performance art is. Like I just do the most random stuff. I'm having so much fun. I'm getting paid to do the things that I enjoy, but it's just like, Jimmy, what the hell do you do half the time? Your life, my life is so interesting. I could say that humbly, thankfully. Some people go like, yeah, my life is fucking interesting. Blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, I've done some weird shit, man. Like, just your life. You finally figure out when you're doing things, and you're like, huh, I've done some weird stuff. And then when I finally got into like streaming, that's when I had like all the issues. Like I recommend to anybody, if you were like me and you're like, man, I don't know if it's worth it to buy a DSLR video camera to do my webcam, but I really want it to look good, I would do the bigger thing and get the bigger thing. If you want to just, I highly recommend also, if you want the standard, if you want something that's great, that's going to, and I was like so ignorant of how like well off I was having this camera, and I should have been webcamming more with it because it's such a great webcam. It's the 1080p Logitech. I love how I'm just giving a big review of just all my tech and be like, yeah, this is fucking amazing. Yeah, it's just, and then for some reason lately, which is why it kind of like prompted me to get into the techie talk today and why it's like so ranty and random for this video. I've been having like streaming issues lately, and I now understand fully why so many people go, I stream and record from two different computers now, because one of them's for streaming and one of them's for audio or recording. I'm like, well, now I understand, because this, by the way, this desktop is like old. It's now old, whatever you want to call it, but it's not that old. It's like maybe 6 years old. It's not that old. It's still an i7 processor. It's got a pretty good like gaming. It's a gaming PC, and it's got a good graphics card. And for some strange reason, like I pull up my CPU usage, and it's like, what the fuck, man? Like, why are you running at full capacity when I'm only, like running a few things? Now that could be a few factors of like I have so many apps on this computer. In the long run, I think my general consensus is I think this computer is going to be like my editing storage computer, and I think when I get my new computer, it's going to be it's going to be besides this one. I think that's going to be my streaming computer, because the next computer I get is going to be like top of the line. I don't care how much it costs. Once I have the money, I'm going to get what I want. I want to get an i9. I want to get a great graphics card. I'm thinking anywhere from like $2,500 to like $4,000, $5,000 for like my next computer. Just because in this day and age, you really need something that's going to be fast. It needs to process everything. Now, if you're just getting started out, do not get that computer. You would be fine with something like even an i5 is fine for a beginner streamer and stuff like that. And that's another thing too. You don't need all this tech to be a streamer. I just have the standard for myself now that I'm just like, I need to be blah, blah, blah. I need to be the best. I need to be the best for, and it's not even like the best out of like everyone, which I know my jealousy is my worst sin, and I'll get into a whole topic about that too, how I just need to be like, I always see people, I'm like, I need to be like that, come on, I need to be like that. But it's like, you do you, and whatever you make, just the consistency, it's so true. Quantity is better than quality, for some things. I shouldn't say that for all things, but especially like if you want, and I know I'm not a big YouTuber and stuff like that, just let me put that out there, but like as a word of advice from somebody who started YouTubing technically in 2006, 2007, who should have kept up with it and probably would have been a way bigger YouTuber and streamer at this point. Trust me, I regret it every single day. I genuinely think that you just need to have a basic camera. You can have your phone, and you can have your phone's editing software, and then you're done. It matters what you want to record, though. If you want to record like drums and everything, I recommend at least getting like a cheap electronic kit. That would be my best option, because you don't want to go into the whole thing of like getting into like recording drums with mics and getting Audacity and learning how to do that. Like, it builds your character, builds your person, but it's like, I'd rather you get the easiest stuff. Anybody who was like, Jimmy, what do you recommend to do blah blah blah? I actually just had a buddy who I play D&D with for our stream every Tuesday, 3:45, Nerds Next Door. If you want to check us out, Eastern Standard Time. He just asked me, because him and his friend play video games every so often together, and he was like, well, we might as well just record it and stream it and, you know, put it out there for us. And I'm like, yeah, like, whatever you guys want to do. And I gave my best options for the beginning. I'm like, you literally could just record the game and your voices. That's all you need. You don't need these video cameras and big recording things like me, where I am now like, oh my god, I need this, I need that. It's like, you don't need it. You really don't need it. I'm at a point now where almost everything is the most HD quality, and I can barely use it because everybody that watches streams are usually on 720 now. Like, it's like, great, I have all this tech for streaming that I can't use. But it's good for quality stuff. Like, when I post YouTube videos now, people are like, oh wow, he's posting 4K awesome audio equipment, blah blah blah, with goodish lighting. My lighting needs to get better. That's another thing I completely forgot to bring up. I have a whole bunch of photography and video stuff. Like, I have umbrella lights and lamps, and I have all this extra things that, like, I keep forgetting to do this. I need to put a light behind my green screen so that it doesn't show up with shadows, so I can have a perfect looking green screen every single time. The other thing I need is I need space. Like, that's if I could give anybody the biggest tip when you're starting out and you want to be big and you want to have all your things and all your ducks in order, make space for yourself, because you're going to need it. Right now, I am in my studio, my home studio. I got a bed in here. I got an electronic drum set in here. I got my desktop and all my audio equipment, all my editing stuff, most of my music stuff, and I got speakers and I got instruments in here and amps and everything, and it's like, it barely fits. It barely fits me. At this point, I could genuinely say this without even batting an eye. If someone was like, with all your tech, with all your technology, how many rooms could you fill, and like evenly spread it out so that like it doesn't look like one room is like short on stuff. Like, you could fill the room to capacity almost. I would say 3 rooms. I would say 1 room would be my instrument recording room, like for instruments. I'd say like a studio-ish room for like instruments. I could say 1 room could be instruments. 1 room's instruments. 1 room and like audio gear and stuff like that. 1 room would be like computer, video games, and then all my like video game stuff. And then I could genuinely do 1 room of just extra tech and cameras. I'm not even joking. I could literally make 3 rooms out of all that stuff, because over the years I've just built up this stuff, and like, that's what I want people to not feel like they have to do, essentially. If you want to get all the techie things and you want to be cool, quote unquote cool like me, go ahead, but use it while you can. Use it when you get it. Like, don't be afraid to like not post the content that you want to post. But I think that's mostly it. I mean, there are a few other things I didn't even go into that I have that I don't like. There's so much tech in here sometimes I don't even use it, and I forget that I have it. And this is just a video to also remind myself, like, I need to be posting more content because I'm worthy, I'm good enough, and I had the tech to do it. So, like, I don't know why I hold myself back so often. And I think that comes down to just, like, me streaming less and not worrying about that as much, because the more you build yourself in, like, content, the more you'll have people come for like the extra things, and streaming is more of like an extra thing anyway. I heard it great from two YouTubers who are also streamers, who both built themselves on YouTube first, and then they say they went to Twitch. I think the best thing that you can usually do, like, don't I'm not gonna stop streaming completely, trust me, that's not how it works anymore, but the best advice I ever heard from Jacksepticeye and Boogie2988 is build your content first, build yourself like a rapport, and then start streaming, because people are going to look at you while you're streaming. You have no followers, you have no YouTube subscribers. It's like you got to build up one first. If you want to be known as the guy that streams 24/7, that's your job, and then you upload it to YouTube, awesome. I can't do that at this point. I could have done it back then, but I got to a point where I needed to work more than I needed to stream. And I'm at a good place. I'm not trying to say that in a bad way. Like, I feel like whenever I said it to people, like, oh my God, are you not working? I'm like, no, trust me, I have way more jobs than I could ever think of right now with performing, teaching, conducting, techie things that I'm doing behind the scenes that haven't really been like unveiled yet. Trust me, I have enough at what I'm doing. I now want to make more time. Now that I'm making an okay amount of money, I want to start branching out and doing other things and getting more into the techie side. But this is a weird rant. I didn't know this video was going to go in this direction. So I know now that my camera can record for half an hour. It's now been an extra 20 minutes on top of that. So I'm going to see how I upload these videos. I haven't even gotten a chance to do that yet for this camera. But I'm going to head out. I'm going to go eat dinner now. But as always, my name is James Joseph Edward Jesperger Jr. But please call me Jimmy for short. And always see you guys in the next one. Peace.